This is Mandatory Listening, a podcast about the whats, whys, and hows of effective practical leadership shared by successful leaders and by your host, Dan Mann.
This is Mandatory Listening with your host, Dan Mann, joined today by Hank Mann. Hi, Hank.
Hey there.
And Kent Mann.
Hello.
We are excited because if in the last few podcasts you've heard us talk about this fictional place called the Chop Shop, which is our favorite place to go to. And today we have a special guest, Uriah Standish. Hi, Uriah.
Hello.
Kind of feels like a little celebrity in here with us today.
Kind of, definitely celebrity.
It is.
Yeah.
And we've been really excited about talking with you, Uriah, because what we see in your business is exactly what we talk about. It's fun to watch it happening when we're on the receiving end. So we're going to spend some time talking with him today about the customer experience. We're going to talk to him about what's going down there in the butcher world and in the world of meat, which we're focused on. But let's start with you. Tell us about yourself, where you came from, where you are now, and a little bit about yourself.
Sure. My name's Uriah Standish. Grew up in a little town called Morganton, North Carolina, about an hour away from Asheville. I was raised by my grandparents, and that's kind of the reason that I got my start with food. I was always baking bread or making cookies, and there was definitely 3 meals on the table a day, no eating out for us. So I kind of learned from a young age that food could bring anyone together and its ability to just kind of shape what we do and who we are. Moved to Asheville to get a start in culinary school, and now I'm employed at the Chop Shop Butcher Shop, this famous place that we keep talking about.
Yeah, it's been great, and actually you mentioned Asheville, and I think most of our listeners know this is based in Asheville, North Carolina, and it's a very unique town where we really don't have a lot of the mass retails or mass service industry, and everybody that comes into the downtown has to find that unique sort of, what's my little niche and what is it I do well? I think that's how Kent came across the shop there, and I don't know, Kent, tell us how that all got started.
Well, yeah, and before I talk about that, I want to just talk about how the purity of Asheville has still remained despite its massive growth and still continues to grow. And you said something I really like, that food is a way of bringing people together, and you learn a lot about people by the food that they eat and the habits they have around food. And I think we make the case that no matter what industry you're in, whether you're serving up meat or you're serving up bikes or you're serving up running shoes, that the way that you conduct yourself while serving other people can really shape the way that they connect with other people in that activity. So, in your case, it's connecting with someone over cuts of meat or the way to prepare food. And we really like to say that the way you connect with someone on their running shoes or their exercise routine or their nutrition, and the questions you ask and the way you can connect to someone can really change someone's life. And so going back to your original question, how did I find the Chop Shop? I remember I was interested in trying this new diet that involved a little more higher quality of meat than what I was typically used to buying. So I looked up local butcher shops in the area and found Chop Shop was really high rated, and walked in one day after the gym and saw a spry young man behind the counter and said, "Hey, I'm looking to get into higher cuts of meat and kind of learning more about this industry." So I asked him a couple questions, and he answered right back with some really, really strong connection-making questions that really took me back by surprise. Like, are you doing this for nutrition, or are you doing this because you like food? Or, there's thousands of examples of the way that you can connect with someone, but I just really saw a connection with the store, with the product, and with the individual employee there. And I think over the last couple months, we've made it a weekly regular, grocery store experience, and it's really kind of changed the way we looked at a lot of things about, the local service here.
It really has. And for our listeners, give us a little journey or a tour of the shop. So what's it like for someone that's never been there, never been to Asheville? What would they experience at the Chop Shop?
Well, if I'm behind the counter, big thing for me is making everyone feel welcome. There's no bright fluorescent lights. The floor is not this awful buffed tile. It's very homey. We, shout welcome. As soon as people come into the shop, it's definitely more personal than anything that I had ever experienced, and I think that's what took me aback when I walked in for the first time myself. And so now I just try to articulate that to everyone that comes in. Is it date night? Are you going for a picnic? Are you just kind of stopping in for your first time? Have you driven by 1,000 times and been just curious about what's inside? And so I really try to cater to each individual that walks in the door, because everything is different. It might be for health reasons or for a diet, or someone might be looking for a cheese that they think we might carry, or even just because they heard that we have good service. Whatever the case might be, I think I try to cater it to that individual each and every time and just provide something that's unique. And even if it wasn't meat, even if it wasn't anything related to what I do, it could be shoes, it could be bikes, I would be passionate about it. I think it's my job to be passionate, just to really deliver something next level, something extraordinary. I think it takes a certain level of love for what you're portraying to the public.
Agreed.
And I would just like to reiterate, too, that you're not working with a lot of space. You don't have this brightly lit, $1 million setup here. You have a corner shop, which almost adds to the appeal. You just walk in, there's a nice little welcome sign on the front door. They have nice glass cases with all your product that you're clearly very proud of. It's all transparent. It's extremely transparent, and you get a good connection with the owners. You honestly can't even tell who the owners are, which is beautiful, because they're working with the same people who they're paying.
You can't tell the difference between anybody on the staff, whether they are owner or whether it's their second day.
Or whether they have 20 years of experience or less than a year of experience, because they know what they're doing.
Absolutely. It's well melded together, and I think that's why we work so well as a team. Everything we do, again, touches on transparency. So we're not afraid to say who the owners are, who the new guys are, and, even more importantly, we have nothing to hide. So people ask us, any question from floor to ceiling. We give tours of the facility. We invest time and money and blood, sweat, and tears into the appearance of the place, because our goal is just to make it just that much more welcoming.
Definitely.
So you mentioned a minute ago the first time you walked in the store. Tell me about the first time you walked into that store.
I just moved to Asheville, and I was kind of searching for some specialty products that I had known about just from my previous endeavors, if you will, and came into the shop and purchased a local brand of mustard that I think everyone who's ever had it is very fond of. And when being wrung out, I think that I was asked, if I remember correctly, is there anything else I can do for you? And my rebuttal was, not unless you're hiring. And what transpired is that the next day I dropped a resume off and then was asked to do a little thing that we in the industry call a stage, essentially free labor for an evaluation of you as an employee, which I think is an incredible thing, really, because we're faced with these 30-minute interviews, or just really sometimes just a piece of paper to give an insight into someone you're going to be paying tons of money, and who's going to be responsible for tons of money coming in and out of your shop. So I came in very, very early on a Tuesday morning, I guess it would be, and I worked. I scrubbed ceiling to floor, under things, behind things, and I wasn't exactly told to clean to that degree. I was just asked to clean, and I think that they saw my willingness to clean and my attention to detail and my just flat-out hard work and attitude as something desirable, and he offered me a job at the end of that 8 hours.
Good first day.
You were instantly part of the team.
Absolutely.
Whether you're cleaning bathrooms, whether you're scrubbing the floor, whether you're changing product, whether you're in the back room and you never talk to anyone, you're part of the team.
Sure.
And I think that says a lot. And you briefly mentioned in interviews that you can't really judge someone's character in a 30-minute interview with a list of 5 questions that you found on the internet. And I think that we really like to hammer down on how important, what type of interview, how you interview, what your goal is when interviewing. I mean, we mentioned this earlier. You can ask a question to someone and you have no idea of what you're looking for by asking that question. So any answer that they give you, you're going to be like, wow, that was really great, because you have no idea what you're looking for. And that's beautiful to me, because they made you, is this guy going to be part of the team? Is this guy going to be able to put in the hours, and is it going to be good hours?
Sure.
Not just a body.
Sure.
Not just unproductive time spent, clock in, clock out. This guy's going to be proud of his work. And that to me is really something special.
Yeah, I feel like an interview should really put someone to the test. It shouldn't just be a list of cookie-cutter questions. You got to know what someone's going to do in that circumstance when they're working. Are they going to really not put their best foot forward?
Sure.
Sounds like they saw a guy that was passionate about cleaning.
Absolutely. And it could be anything. If someone writes on their resume that they've got an extensive knowledge of use and of sales of let's say bicycles, walk a bicycle into the office and ask them to tell you about it. If they can't give you, a list a mile long about all of its features, but then, find a way to make it personal and articulate it to you. No one wants to be, just bombarded with all of these facts and details and specs unless they ask for it, in which case you better know. Yeah. You better be able to almost tell them anything they want to know about the bike.
What I'm struck about the Chop Shop and your experience there is how many options I have in Asheville for meat. I mean, it's so easy for me to go to a variety of choices.
Even within several blocks of the Chop Shop.
Sure.
Yes.
But most of us that shop there regularly find it as this is an additional stop I'm going to take because of what's happening there. So I'd love for you to just talk about what is that? What is it that makes this so unique? I mean, the product is fantastic. It's not your prices necessarily because, I'm paying a little more for the quality, but I'm also paying a little more for the experience, and I think that's what I'm wanting to get into.
Sure. I mean, just touching on that price quickly, I mean, you're absolutely getting the best product that you can find, but you're paying for that experience. It takes sometimes upwards of 5, 10, 20, sometimes 30 minutes just to interact with one customer because it's so intensive, it's so personal. And that's what I really strive to do personally. It's never just what's for dinner. It's how are you cooking? What are you serving this with? Are you going to be on an open flame? Is this going to be raw? Are you cooking that ribeye rare? I don't think that you should do that. Here's why, and here's what you could cook that is actually, really delicious at rare or medium rare. I'm sorry I don't have what you're looking for. Can I offer these 15 other options that complement or even allow you to try something new, but still similar enough that you feel comfortable taking this plunge into something that's different? And it's all about reading people, There'll be, a line of people out the door and every one of them is going to be incredibly different. And it's just about being able to pay attention to these nuances. Do people want this service? Do they just want to be, on their way to dinner? Is it 5:30? Do they have dinner at 6? Are there 17 screaming kids in the car? What is this person's needs and goals?
And you said it right. You said it, paying attention. Mm-hmm. And I would like to add a addition to that. It's paying attention and not stereotyping. Because there is a very clear difference, and I think a lot of people in the industry can't see that difference.
Sure.
They see, oh, that guy's not going to spend any money. Or, oh, this guy doesn't have any, this guy, he's just looking. He's a browser. And I think that is a huge trap for people.
Absolutely.
It's something like you mentioned earlier, paying attention to someone's demeanor. Not the clothes that they're wearing. They're not wearing, designer brands. So, oh, this guy's going to spend thousands of dollars with me today. No, it's how is this guy feeling today? Is he open to alternatives? Is he open to hearing the nutrient value of this particular food, or what would pair really well with this Denver steak? By the way, if you've never had a Denver steak, it's really good.
Do it.
Never had one before. Uriah mentioned it to me, and it's delicious. So yeah. Anyway, that's paying attention to the right things and making the right judgment calls on what sort of information you choose to give to people.
Sure. And we, that's a great word, you're a great phrase, staying away from stereotyping. Yeah. I really do not enjoy working with those who say, oh, this guy's going to be a big spender. Like, let's give him more effort. Like, that's a terrible way to look at the business. It should be 110% to everyone who walks in the door. Because, sure, that guy might come in and spend $400 one time, but it's Kim who lives down the street who buys a quart of chicken salad a week, every week, eggs to feed her family, chicken breast to go on the grill. That's what keeps your shop open. Wow. It's not the one-time shopper. Mm-hmm. It's not the guy driving the Maserati outside. It's the person that lives 2 blocks up the street who wants to know how business is, who's concerned when the power goes out, who loves when we take holidays. It's these people to me that are the most important. And don't get me wrong, every customer is, but if there's anyone that deserves more effort, it's the everyday. It's the $10 sale every day, not the $400 sale.
And you're I would say above anything else, you're a community store.
Absolutely.
You didn't mention it yet, but you have classes available for how to butcher, how to prepare, and I've even asked you things that you didn't offer as a store-wide service, but you gave me very specific instructions on something that I was asking, and I really took that to heart. That's like, it's hard to find these days without putting a price tag on it. I mean, if it's good information, I don't think the price really matters at all, because I know the information is genuine coming from you guys.
Sure. I love the example of the woman who lives down the street. Maybe you said Kim, but buying 2 or 3 things each week because she's relying on you. as that's really your customer, that community feel. And I have to go back to the first time I met you and the first time I went to the Chop Shop. I was with Kent. I don't remember what we had done, but it was an afternoon, like around 3:15 or so on a Sunday. And you were just telling me about this great place. Well, let's get some steaks, or we'll get something to cook tonight. That'll be great. I'd like to see this place. And we pull up at 3:15, and I guess on that Sunday or every Sunday you close at 3:15, and we walked up to the door, and both of us like, oh my gosh, man. What a shame. And so we're standing there going, well, so maybe, and you came to the door and opened the door. Say, hey guys, what's going on? And Kent said, well, we just didn't realize you closed at 3, and you said, come on in, what can I do for you? I mean, there's a lot about that. When, I think there's a lot of stories of people who won't go that extra mile. That sounds like a community shop.
I think that's the rule rather than the exception these days, which is bizarre.
It really is.
It's a tragedy.
Yeah, I think that definitely differentiates the great experience as a place that's willing to show their customers that it's about them. It's not about themselves, and it's not about their store necessarily. It's about the customer and the great customer experience.
Well, Hank, I think you have a good story about that, and that just kind of hammers down the point, and I think you should share it.
Okay, so recently I was in the business of getting a car, and I had to get insurance for myself because it was my first car, and it took a long time to get to the process of actually getting the car, but at the end of it, you got to make sure you've got insurance. So I call up who I had before, and it was right at the end of the day, about 5 o'clock, and they said, the lady answers the phone and says, well, I mean, I'd love to help you, but I'm actually about to go. So you should come back. You should call back tomorrow. And I was like, well, okay, that's fine, but I'd really like to get this car. And so turns out that the place I bought the car had an insurance place right there. So they were willing to stay with me as long as I needed.
And you switched insurance companies after our family spending tens of thousands of dollars with the previous company to a new company over something that, quote, insignificant.
Yeah.
And what you did was opened up a door to a new client and a new family who was like extremely loyal on that little act alone.
Absolutely. You never know who's your next regular. I think that's a great way to look at it. It could be the middle of the day on a Tuesday. You might not have slept for a week, and your caffeine hasn't kicked in from your 4th cup of coffee. But I think that the thing that sets apart a really, really good specialty retail location and just an average one is every time 100%, regardless of need or of demeanor, whatever it takes just to take it to the next level. I mean, it really, I keep saying this, but it's really not that hard. All it takes is someone who's passionate about what you're doing, and I think that's what you should look for in the people that you're hiring. Even as someone, I consider myself pretty skilled with this specialty retail thing, I would not want to work somewhere where my energy, my passion, my drive wasn't matched.
Mm-hmm. Nice. No.
And I've talked about this in previous podcasts where if the specialty retail location or industry had as high stakes as the restaurant industry, where you are responsible for the food that you're sending out, whether it be food allergies, whether it be undercooked shellfish or anything, how would the industry be different if those stakes were up there?
Around customer service.
Around customer service. Around the question, like if you send someone out with not all the right gear on a camping trip, they could be seriously injured or die. And so what if the stakes were up there? And I just want to talk about how asking the right questions, especially in a butcher shop, can really put someone either at risk or have the best meal of their entire life.
Sure.
Because you're not in charge of preparing their food. Mm-hmm. They're walking out with a raw product.
Sure.
And so how do you navigate those questions in a way that says, I've got you covered?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that it starts with confidence in what you're selling and confidence as a person. If you are the type of person that strays away from the door when someone walks in, if you're unwilling to answer questions without, maybe an owner or manager standing next to you to kind of back you up, I think that you're already down the wrong path. But just to kind of specify and get into an example of what I do, let's say it's Friday night, date night. Gentleman walks in, I'm looking to prepare a wonderful meal for, my partner. What do you suggest? And, absolutely I could sell him the most expensive bottle of wine and the most expensive cut of meat and send him on his way. He'd trust me because he's kind of in a tough place. He wants to impress someone, but that is not the way that I would approach this situation. My first questions would be, have you shopped with us before? No, I'll tell them about the beef. I'll tell them why we're different, what sets this apart. Why are you paying so much more for this? And then, kind of round it back around. What kind of beef do you like? How do you cook your beef? I won't sell you a ribeye if you eat rare meat. It's just not how we like to cook it, and we kind of think that it's better at a certain temperature. If you tell me you like ribeyes, I'll show you the ribeyes. I'll show you the cuts that are most similar to ribeyes. I'll ask you how you're cooking. Don't throw, for example, a filet mignon. Don't throw a filet mignon on a 900-degree charcoal grill. It's going to be ruined. That's not what you want to do. And I think just to reiterate, it's asking the right questions. So, what is your partner like? Are they interested in flavor? Are they interested in tenderness? That takes us down two completely different routes. And again, it's about knowing your product and knowing how to divert the conversation. If they're looking for the most high-end, the most expensive, if they want top-notch, be willing to tell them why it's top-notch. This beef has been aged 120 days. This is where that cost is derived. This beef is considered an economy cut. They call it the poor man's ribeye. I eat more of these than I eat any other cut because it's full of flavor and it's underutilized. If you're looking to get out, a little bit cheaper but still wow someone, this is the cut that I would go for. If you're on the grill, throw a bavette steak on. If you're inside, let's do a Denver. It's all about just knowing the differences between everything that you're selling and being able to kind of distinguish and just be able to deliver what the person's looking for.
I'm getting hungry.
I think I'm getting pretty hungry. Wow. I think we got a couple people moving to Asheville, I think, just for a butcher shop. Wow. Man, if you can imagine if you walk into an outdoor store and you got that level of detail with the product that they sell, you'd walk out with $1,000 worth of gear every single time.
Yep. Exactly.
I mean, it's almost an outrage that the industry can't seem to wrap their head around this customer experience thing.
Agreed. Yeah. Not everyone can know you or know Asheville, and we don't have a podcast yet, but it's coming. But it's striking to also call out for those that are listening. Uriah, how old are you?
I'm 19 years old.
So you're not talking to the 45-year-old owner who's complaining about these quote millennials. I mean, this is a millennial sitting in front of me who's got this level of passion. So it does really remind me that this is less about any sort of of an age group that's got some sort of a history, a problem, quote, as much as it is about a company or a business creating an opportunity for passion and creating an opportunity for folks like you that are looking to, as you said, the business that matches my enthusiasm for this.
Yeah, and creating the culture in that business where people want to have the passion. You can almost create the passion.
Rewarding it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Rewarding that enthusiasm.
Yep. I just have to ask, where are you headed with all this? What's your... is this as a career and as you go forward and pursue what you're going to do for the rest of your life? What are your thoughts?
I'm trying to take it one step at a time. I do realize that I'm very young, but I'm happy with the trajectory that I'm on. I'm setting a very nice foundation for what's going to be what I think a very successful future. I'm not going to stop with one degree. I'm going to try to pursue several. I hope to become multifaceted in this industry, which is food. I've worked Neapolitan pizza. I'm now at a butcher shop. Worked at an Italian place and rolled pasta all summer. So I think it's more about just kind of seeing what the industry can do for me and really learning everything that I can every day. On my days off, I'm not out partying or doing the things that I think my peers are doing. I'm often reading or cooking at home or trying a new recipe or even putting in extra hours at the shop, trying to make sure that it's everything that I and the owners want it to be, because it truly is my livelihood. It's my passion, and I think that really shows when you come in.
How do you guys keep the energy up in that space? Because it's a compact space. It's not uncommon to walk in, see 4 or 5 people behind the counter working, and have easily 10, 12, 15 people in the space, and you're really hustling. And yet, when I engage with you, I got your full attention. I've got your focus. You're asking me those questions. I don't feel rushed. You're almost slowing it down. I mean, how do you create that?
I mean, I can't speak for my peers per se. I will say there's a lot of coffee, but where isn't there? For me personally, the reward behind making someone's evening, week, or even month is invaluable. I'd do it 12 hours a day every day if I knew that I was going to be able to help these same people and really reward them with what I know is an incredible experience, an incredible product. And, I can't speak again for my coworkers, but I can drop a conversation with someone on a Tuesday and see them again on a Friday and pick it right back up. I memorize names. I ask about the kids. I know that you got a Denver steak 3 weeks ago, and I know you're going to be amazed that I remember that. There's no technology tracking this. It's simply because I want to give you the utmost 100% best customer service experience that you've ever had. If you're coming out of town yearly and coming back in, tell me about it. What can I do to get you back next year? Hey, we're just passing through. Cool. Let me pack your freezer full of stuff. I've got ice. I've got bags. I can vacuum seal things. What will it take? Tell me. Let me help you.
And I want to talk about that a little bit. I went on a road trip up to Canada, and so we stopped by, of course, at our favorite Chop Shop. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of it yet. Stopped by there to grab some stuff for the freezer on the road trip up, and instantly got great questions about, are we going to have an open fire? What kind of heating method are we going to use to cook it? And so we got a plethora of things, and I had mentioned earlier in the conversation that we were going on a road trip and we were being a cooler, and they're like, and they, without even asking me, they put it in a vacuum seal container for the freezer, and it lasted almost a week in there. It was just one of those small details that I'll never forget because it was so perfect, and I never would have thought to ask. And I didn't know you guys even did that, so I just wanted to call that out. It was a beautiful little moment.
It's the little things. I mean, we keep talking about providing what we call this perfect customer experience. Again, pay attention to your customer. What do they need? Are their hands full? Do they have 2 kids on their arms? There's no way they're going to carry this bag of groceries out to their car. Why ask? Pick it up, start walking with them. If they offer to grab it, ask, double check. But if they want to carry it themselves, let them. Otherwise, grab the door for them. Help them across the street. What does it take really to be this good at it? It's not that hard. You just have to pay attention.
And you got to want to do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. As we look at an overall methodology for this customer service thing, and the people who oftentimes, I hear this all the time, we just can't find good people, or there's just, we just can't keep anyone who's good. Do you think that this is a training problem? Do you think that this is a people problem? I think we would all disagree that this is a generation problem, since we just disproved that. But what tips would you give these people that are like, man, I need a Uriah at my shop. I need someone who's going to be invested in this shop, whether they're here for a year while they're working in school, or how am I going to get these people that can get these results that this culture that I want at my shop?
I mean, I think it starts with the shop itself. If it's pleasant to look at and it just screams professionalism, if this is somewhere very specified, I mean, I think that you're going to draw natural people who are interested in whatever industry it might be. An outdoor shop is going to draw outdoorsmen. It's just the way the world works. And if it looks like somewhere, if everyone's in the same uniform, if they're well kempt, if they're professional, if they're ready to go the second the door opens or maybe a few minutes before or after, I think it starts again with the shop and its employees. You have to kind of radiate this air of professionalism, of somewhere desired to work. And I think that second, it comes down to rewarding it. If you get something, hold on to it. Especially in the restaurant industry, I'll speak to this from experience. No one wants to pay. No one wants to pay to keep good help. Our margins are tight, sure, but I think that the reward of paying good people is that you make more money and therefore can afford to pay these people more. But as far as finding these people, again, I think they're going to be naturally attracted to where you go. If you post an ad on Craigslist, expect to get turnout from Craigslist. It's all too common in what I see to the day-to-day. And, sure, I've answered a few when I needed a job, but at the end of the day, that just kind of screams desperation. Yeah. And we talk about this term fogging. We're going back to this question that you asked during your interview. What do you think customer service looks like? If you don't know what you want to hear, then everything's going to sound good. So I think, again, asking the right interview questions, do a stage. I think it's a great idea. Anyone who's unwilling to give you 3, 4, 5 hours of their time for free in exchange for a job prospect is probably not someone you want in your shop to begin with. And what that does is that gives you an idea of who they are as an employee. Are they hardworking? Are they on their phone all day? Are they willing to engage with customers? If they put that shirt on, they have to be ready to be flagged, to be stopped, to be, kind of pestered with anything. You have to be, really a certain type of person to be in this industry regardless. And then from there, we talk about training, making sure that you're being very clear with what you expect of your people, because if they're not giving you what you expect, is it because you didn't tell them, or is it because, they just don't know? Like, what does it come down to? Is it insubordinance, or is it lack of training?
You have to be willing to come onto a podcast with 3 random people when you put on that shirt.
Absolutely. And I'm representing not only myself, but the company that I work with, and
Of course.
in a way, a generation. That's why I kind of got hooked onto this. You guys are talking about, is this the generation? And I really don't think so. There's several peers of mine that are just as motivated as I am, but then, of course, you have the people that aren't. It just trickles down to who you are as a person.
There's some baby boomers like that too, I think.
Absolutely.
Despite popular opinion.
Let's keep that out of it. I don't think that's in there. Well, Uriah, we have really enjoyed just talking about a common topic here today with you, which we're all passionate about. But the reason why we want to do this is because as much as we talk about it in theory, watching it happen, in 3D, being served to us as paying customers is really a delight to behold, and we really appreciate what you do in town and for us personally, but also just it's really a testament to what can be a great customer experience these days, and it's easy, as you said, as long as you're focused.
Yep.
So
no buyer's remorse from us, that's for sure. I love spending money with you guys. You guys really take care of us in the best way possible.
I could probably tell you all what you're going to get for dinner next week, and what I know for a fact what you have cooking on the grill upstairs, and I know what you got the last 5 times you came in.
Absolutely, man.
And that's what it takes.
Yeah.
Uriah Standish with the Chop House, Chop Shop.
Yeah.
Chop Shop.
What's your favorite butcher store in Asheville?
Chop Shop. Chop Shop. He said upstairs, and we're going to go upstairs and anyway.
Yeah.
Uriah, thank you so much for your time today, and again, keep up the great work. We're really impressed.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thank you, guys.
That's it for this episode. You can find Mandatory Listening on iTunes or wherever you get and subscribe to your podcasts. We'd love to hear what you think, so make sure and leave us comments on iTunes or on our website at mangroup.net, where you'll find all of our episodes. That's MANN group.net. Thanks for listening.